G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. If you are in the Roo Crew, you'll be getting this about a week early. And what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks, each and every day, we're going to go through a best 17 for one team in the NRL for season 2025. They'll be here in the Roo Crew, and then in a week's time, they'll be starting to drop on YouTube. So if you want to get early access, if you're watching this on YouTube outside of the Roo Crew, you can still go in there and join. You can watch all the ones that have come in the last week and are still to come on YouTube, and the ones that are coming after that as well. So jump in the Roo Crew. The link is in the description. It's going to be a huge year for the Roo Crew, and I highly advise if you're a footy fan, there isn't going to be a better way for you to spend $2 a week than by jumping into that community. Let's get stuck into our very first one, and we have got the Gold Coast Titans. Now, last year, we did our best 17s, and it was our first year in the studio. First time I had Kat here, we had to go to Vegas, so we sort of got derailed a little bit late, and there was a few sides that we didn't get around to. The Titans was one of them, so I apologize to you Titans fans, but we are going to rip you off first here. So let's get stuck in to the Gold Coast Titans. I personally think when I'm looking at my ladder for season 2025, the Titans are probably the hardest team to place. I can make a fair argument for them to finish in the bottom four. I can also make a really fair argument for them to be in the top eight. And honestly, I think that if everything goes to plan for the Titans and their forward pack is rolling and they play the way that I think they'll play, I'm not going to rule out a top four berth. I don't have them as a 1 or 2 side, but I wouldn't shock me beyond belief if they landed in 3rd and 4th if everything goes their way. So the Titans, I find them to be a very difficult team to place. I think another year under Desi Hasler, getting Tino back, I am expecting good things from the Titans. I think it will be a better year this year than what we saw last year. But their best 17. Look, every year for the last 3 or 4 years, we have this same fight about the Gold Coast Titans. How do you fit all these guys in? Personally, I think it is a little bit clearer this year than what it has been previously. And in these best 17s, guys, I'm going to give you what my 17 would be. I'll discuss as we go what I actually think it'll look like, or from what we've heard what it'll look like. But I just think, guys, I can either give you the 17 I would, or just a likely 17, and you guys can type that into Google and find a fucking 1,000 of them. So I'd rather give you my takes on what I do, and maybe they'll be a little bit outside of the box sometimes. Maybe you'll disagree with them, but you can find likely 17s wherever you want. So the team that I would pick for the Titans, I think the fullback, Keano Keeney, I think he's a superstar of our game. He's now the Kiwis fullback, and I think he will be for a very long time. Second-year syndrome is a concern this year, I guess, but I don't know. I just feel like this kid's special, and I've always loved AJ Brimson. I've always said he's the best fullback at the club, and maybe he still is, but I'll tell you what, one season from Keano Keeney, one more season like we saw last year, and he is the best fullback at the club for me, and he's very close to it right now. I think that argument's over. We can fight for hours and days if you want about who the halves are going to be. Fullback for me, Keano Keeney, he is locked in, and I do believe he will be the fullback for the Titans. When we look at the wingers, Campiera, top try scorer last year. I think he scored 44 tries in 42 games. The kid just can't be stopped out there on the wing. He used to have brain explosions and errors in him. I think he's really cleaned that up, and he looks really good now. So Campiera locks himself in on the left edge. My other winger, I think he's one of the more underrated players in the competition, Phil Sami. I absolutely love him. Played for Queensland a couple of years ago. Very, very consistent. He will do a job out there as well. So Campiera, Phil Sami, and Keeney, that's your back three. Centers, Brian Kelly locks himself into one spot. Defensively, there are a couple of issues here and there. I get it, but I just think he's attacking-wise, he is just too good, and I don't think his defense is bad enough to keep him out of the side. So Brian Kelly, I think he lands in one spot there. My other center might be a little bit controversial, but I need to fit AJ Brimson in there somewhere. I think it's stupid to play him in the halves, personally. So I'm going to fit AJ Brimson into the centers. I do think, by the sounds of the reports, it sounds like Brimo will play in the halves. If so, you'd have to assume that Jojo Fafita will line up in the centers. But my center pairing would be Brian Kelly and AJ Brimson, and I am giving AJ Brimson a license to roam around a little bit. I don't just want him to sit on one edge. I want him just to play what's in front of him, float around, pop up here and there if I'm defending against the Titans. The last thing I want is to have AJ Brimson given a license to roam and just do whatever the hell he wants. I would love to have a talent like him. If I'm defending, just sit in a corridor and don't leave there. Hopefully, Desi Hasler, he does give him a license to roam around. So they would be my centers. My 5'8", I'm going with Jaden Campbell. Defensively, there's issues there. I get it. I thought he was really good at the start of last season. I think he faded towards the back end of the season defensively. Is anyone really shocked by that, realistically? I think with another season under his belt, though, I imagine he would have put on a little little bit of weight this offseason to prepare himself to defend in the front line. I'm okay with playing Jaden Campbell at 5'8". I thought he had some tremendous games last year, and I think he'll be better for the run. My halfback would be Kieran Foran. For me, I look around this league and there's a handful of really experienced halfbacks in this game. Kieran Foran is one of them. If you've got a Kieran Foran in your system, you pick him at halfback. I think it is ridiculous not to pick him in the 7 jersey. It sounds like that's what they're going to do, and I understand that Foz, I think he's had an injury this off-season, so maybe it's got more to do with that he hasn't been able to train. He might not be 100% for round 1, and if so, I get it. But for me, if I'm picking my best side, Kieran Foran is my halfback. Sounds like there's a very good chance he'll come off the bench for the Titans, which, once again, if he's not 100%, if he's carrying an injury, I can understand it. But for me, if I've got a Kieran Foran in my system, he will be my halfback. All right, now we're going to move to the forward pack, and what a forward pack it is. We've got in the front row for me, Mo Fotuaika, obviously an Origin representative. I thought he was great for them last year. We've also got Regan Campbell-Gillard, who arrives from the Parramatta Eels. I'm not as hyped about the Regan Campbell-Gillard signing as a lot of other people. I've seen him being, top 4 for enforcers of 2025 and, best signing of the year and one of the best signs. I think he'll be a good signing. I'm not sure that RCG is the player he was a couple of years ago when he was playing Origin and whatnot anymore, but I'd be stoked to be proven wrong. So we'll see how he goes at the Titans, but those two would be my starting front row forwards. Sammy Verrills, he picks himself in jersey 9. He'd be my guy there. And I do think, as far as that front row goes, I think that will be the side that Desi Hazard will pick. I think you will have those 3 in your front row. Edges, when fit, obviously Dave Fafita will be one of them. Both Thurmore will be the other one. There's a lot of chat around Dave Fafita if he's going to be fit for round 1. They've obviously got the bye in round 1. So the question is, will he be fit in round 2? I know a lot of people are panicking about it from a Supercoach point of view. Yeah, it's it's mid-January, guys. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge before we're selecting teams, and there's even more time to go under the bridge when it comes to the Titans because they have the round 1 bye. So we'll wait and see on Fafita, but if he's available, even if he's not 100%, he's on one edge, and for me, Bo Thurmore's on the other side. I'm very, very excited to see how Bo Thurmore goes this year. Obviously, injuries have derailed him the last few years. Really started to find form again last season, and I'm expecting him to have a big 2025 season. So those two are automatics. They pick themselves for me. I do have concerns about the Titans' depth in the back row, if I'm honest with you. Once those two drop out, it gets a little bit interesting, and you're kind of playing guys out of position or guys that aren't quite ready to play 80 minutes in first grade for me. So I think they need both those guys to stay fit. Jersey 13 are one of the biggest ins for season 2025 for any team, in particular the Gold Coast Titans. They get their captain back, Tino, obviously an ACL last year. I think the beauty or the silver lining of Tino's injury last year is that it made some other guys step up, and it's made other guys step up to the point that previously, picking them on the bench and stuff, I would have been a little bit iffy if they were up to first grade. Now I know they're ready to go. Guys like Jermaine Jolliffe, Bahulu, these sort of fellas, even Mo Fotuaika, it really forced him to step up. So I do think the silver lining, despite how much of a nightmare it was without Tino last year, getting him back this year, I think there's just other guys. Everything doesn't have to be about Tino. Previously, when he's playing, 70, 80 minutes per game, I don't think they need Tino to do that this year. I think there's other guys that can hold the fort there. So I think that's a huge positive. Getting Tino back, a leader like him, a premiership winner, it is enormous for the Gold Coast Titans. So Tino back in jersey 13. I think he'll be the guy there when they pick the actual side. So for me, when I look at my starting side, I think the forward pack, I think it'll be spot on with the team that'll actually be picked. I think that the backline, the halves in particular and the centers, I wouldn't be surprised if that is a little bit different when Team List Tuesday come out for round 2 for the Titans. But that is the side I would pick. That's the team that I would feel confident with going into round 2 when they start. My bench, Chrissy Randall, he's a Mr. Fix-It for them. I absolutely love this guy. He would be jersey 14 for me. He can play middle, edge, lock, hooker. If you were really, really desperate, you could chuck him in the halves and he could just defend out there for you. I love Chris Randall. He's an automatic in my side. 2 guys that I mentioned earlier, Jermaine Jolliffe. I thought he was enormous last year. I've always been a fan of Jolliffe. When he got selected for his first game last year, I spoke about him on Beers and Break-Evens. He was one to watch. And I'll tell you what, he got through so much work last year. It was not even funny. And I think that when you bring him off the bench, I think you can lock him in to play, 30 to 50 minutes off the bench at a high click. I think he'll do a really good job for them. Jermaine Jolliffe, one to watch this year. Pahulu, look, guys, I don't know what's going on with this contract situation. For me, reading between the lines, seems like the Titans have done him a little bit dirty, in my opinion. I don't know where it's all going to land, but I look at this side and I think that Desi Hasler and Pahulu, whatever's going on between management and him, I think he needs to leave it at the door because I think he's going to be a very important and key piece for the Titans. And the reality is if Pahulu wants to leave and go somewhere else, the best way to do it is to play good footy, put yourself out there on the open market and show what you can do. And I think Desi Hasler, that's what he'll want out of him. So him and Jermaine Jolliffe, they will come off the bench for me. I think they'll be good. Jersey 17, I'm kind of open to a few ideas here. You've obviously got Chris Randall in 14, who can be a bit of a utility, but he can also just be a flat-out middle forward with good leg speed. They've got guys like Fodawaker, Campbell, Gillard, and Tino who can play big minutes. So I'm happy if they want to go with like a Cleese Haas here, if they want to go with an Isaac, Fasu or Malawi. I'm happy with that sort of option. Arlick, I've always been a big fan of. I'd like to see him there. But I'll tell you what, the one that I'm finding kind of appealing, and maybe it's going to cause too many chefs in the kitchen, I don't know. But Carter Gordon coming over from the Wallabies, he's a big body. He can play in the halves. He can handle himself in the centres. I think you can even chuck him on in jersey 13 and he'd do a job there. I'm kind of leaning towards throwing him there. And look, obviously, guys, we're going to watch trials. We're going to see how he goes there, how he shapes up, how he goes defensively and whatnot. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to be like a superstar in this league or anything, but I think he could be a decent little X-factor player to bring into this side. So I'm sort of leaning towards having Carter Gordon in jersey 17. If not him, though, Arlick, Haas, there's a heap of forwards that you could just shove there as well, but I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards Carter Gordon being in jersey 17, and I know you got two utilities, if you want to call them that, in him and Randall, but I look at Randall as just being a middle forward with good leg speed. So, that's how I'd sort of go about it. I would have Tino. I wouldn't have him playing the 70 and 80 minutes. I'd have him sort of in the 40 to 50-minute range to start the season when returning from his ACL. Get to the back end of the season, I think Tino can elevate himself back to those big minutes. He's going to have to get through Origin and whatnot again. But for me, yeah, I'm happy to run with Fodawaker, Campbell, Gillard first 25 minutes or so. Bring on Jolliffe, Pahulu. You might even want to split them up. I think Jolliffe has shown that he can handle himself starting in the front row, especially if he's with Campbell, Gillard and Fodawaker. So you might want to split them off if there's a little bit of a drop-off at some point. But yeah, that's the side I'd be happy to run with the Gold Coast Titans. I think it can be successful. So guys that have missed the side then, you're probably talking Isaac, Fasu Malawi. You've got Arlick. You've got Cleese Haas, some good forwards. But the big one for me is Jojo Fafita, who I really like. I think he's now an out first grader. But unless I'm playing Brimson in the halves, which I personally think is a mistake if you don't have to do it, he would probably miss the side for me. But he'd be putting pressure on Campiera, Kelly, Sammy, guys that are very talented. But at times they can have form slumps and they can come up with poor plays. Jojo Fafita, he will be biting at the bit to get back into that side, and when he does, you know he'll do well. So I think competition for spots is always a positive thing, and the Titans have plenty of it up there. I like to look at the Titans side for this year. It's just going to be that consistency. It's going to be the defensive attitude that they probably still need to sort out, along with just keeping these guys all on the field. Guys like Foran, Campbell, Brimson. It's obviously important for them to be available and on the field, but I think just the consistency of their football, they need to start to have these guys playing 10, 12, 13, 14-week periods together instead of chopping and changing them all season. I would lock Keeney in at fullback. That solves one problem. I would lock Campbell into the 5'8 spot, and then I would play Foran at 7 if you have to play Brimo there. Sure, I don't love it. Kicking game worries me, but I do look at the Melbourne Storm, and once again, I always think the Melbourne Storm are the exception, not the example. They've got two ball-running halves. Their forward pack just holds their own, and they manage to play good footy off the back of it. So maybe Desi Hasler can make that work. It'll be a little bit unorthodox, but that's sort of what the Titans are and how they go about their work. And if Foran isn't ready to go or he's not fully fit, maybe you do just need to lean into that. The one thing I do love is that if the Titans are going to run with Jaden Campbell and Brimson in the halves, I don't like it, but if they are going to do it, you would want to have a forward pack that is going to compete every single week and will get you on the front foot, and at least they have that. This forward pack, Fodawaker, Verrills, Campbell Gillard, Fafita, Fermor, Tino with Jolliffe, Pahulu coming off the bench and Randall. I like that. I think that forward pack will at least compete with most sides week in, week out, and I think maybe those halves can be successful behind them. But my big talking point out of this one, it sounds like the Titans are going to pick Kieran Foran off the bench. Once again, it might be injury related, which fair play. If he's not 100%, I can kind of understand it. But if he's ready to go and available, he is my halfback every single day of the week. The Titans, pretty much ever since Scott Prince left, have been trying to sort out this halfback jersey. Aiden Caesar's looked good for periods of time. Ash Taylor's been there. Kane Elgie's bounced in and out throughout the years. You've obviously got Jamal Fogarty, who was great. They let him go, though. You've finally got an out-and-out 7 who's an experienced head, who has been successful, who is a good defender. He's the guy that I would have there. Personally, unless if he's not 100% fit, sure, but if he is and they're playing him in jersey 14, I kind of think the Titans are outthinking the room a little bit. I would like him to be the 7 in my side. Thank you guys for joining us here on the Rugby League Guru podcast or in the Roo Crew if you're getting early access to this. If you are on YouTube and you want to join the Roo Crew, $2 a week, the best value you will get in rugby league this year. Exclusive content, early content, meet and greets, meetups at the pub and everything. It's going to be sensational. A heap of giveaways. We just gave away 2 jerseys in the Roo Crew the other day to 2 lucky winners. And the people that came to our meetup, I think they drank themselves about 10 times what they've paid to be in the Roo Crew. So they've had a good little evening there. So make sure you join the Roo Crew, guys. The link is in the description. Come and join us on Patreon.